Running a poll on this issue, we're asking you a question, simple. Do you believe Ace Makashule when he says that there is no plot to oust President Ramaphosa? Send us your comments at @theagenda_SABC. While Trade Federation COSATU has called on the ANC NEC to investigate reports of an alleged plot to oust President Ramaphosa. On the agenda, we talk now to the COSATU spokesperson, Sizwe, Pamla. Sizwe, thank you very much indeed for your time. You're calling for this probe. You've heard what Ace Makashule said yesterday. Don't you believe him?
Well, he's telling his side of the story. So since we don't have evidence, remember, when you are calling for an investigation, it's because you want facts. So that investigation will also allow him to tell his side of the story. What we do not need as an alliance is to continue to have these kinds of debates. We've been having these kinds of discussions for the last couple of years. Before Nasrec, we were hoping that Nasrec was going to put to bed all of these divisions. Now, it has taken 2 days for the SG to come out. Of course, we're not saying that what he's saying is not true. But the way they handled this entire story, for example, he's yet to explain what were the other people doing there. He talks about himself having met one-on-one with the former president. But he's not explaining to us to say what was the former Premier of Northwest doing there and the SGO of the Women's League. So what we are saying here is that, look, we believe that an investigation will actually help these leaders because it will clear them if they are innocent. So but that's all we are calling for. What's
COSATU's gut feeling? Do you think there's any truth in these allegations?
No, that's why we're calling for an investigation. Look, if you go back to the last 3 years, we've been having these kinds of leaks, allegations. I mean, look at the state capture. When the state capture was happening, it's not that the media was not reporting on it. It's just that the then ANC NEC was not prepared to investigate. Even when the Gupta leaks were actually being published, the ANC NEC at the time wasn't interested. Now, we are where we are because of that failure by the ANC NEC to act. When we went to Nasrec, we were hoping that we were going to come out with a new NEC that was going to do things differently. And they were given the mandate: unite the organization, clean the mess, and renew the organization as we go forward. And that is all we are calling for, is to say you have a mandate from that conference that you are not going to allow things to happen the way they've been over the last couple of years, because ANC was almost liquidated. The alliance was in a paralysis. So what we are saying is that as an alliance partner, we want the NEC to provide the necessary leadership, especially because we've just looked at the recent crime stats. Shocking. The GDP numbers, depressing. And if you look at the unemployment figures, depressing. Now, we have an election in a few months' time. How do we convince the electorate that this leadership of the ANC that is facing these kinds of allegations is actually, it deserves a second chance as we go forward? Well, so for us, we are also thinking about the elections to say, let's put these issues to bed. So you investigate, you clear the individuals if they are innocent, but if they are not innocent, you hold them accountable and you move on.
Well, these issues of unemployment, crime stats and the like are important variables in the lead up to the national elections next year. Well, what about these allegations, these allegations to oust the president of the ANC, Ramaphosa? You as an alliance partner, how concerned are you about the impact this will have in next year's elections?
Well, it will have a big impact. Because already, if you look at the 2016 local government election, if you remember the time, we all said, meaning all, including the alliance, we said we were taking a collective decision that the failures that we experienced during those elections, collectively, we were going to take responsibility. But then we also said we were going to decode a message that was being sent to us by the electorate. And that message was clear, is that people are fatigued, is that people now are prepared to actually explore other political parties because they have been listening to all of these promises. They have been watching these internal fights and these corruption allegations. So if you then are going to go to a conference where you are given a mandate of renewal, and then 8 months, 10 months down the line, you have these kinds of allegations, then you have a responsibility to instill confidence into the people of South Africa by saying, you know what, we're going to investigate this so that we can clear these leaders, and as we move forward, we don't have these kinds of debates.
Sizwe, Pamla, what would it take to reverse the outcomes of the Nasrec conference? Is it even plausible?
I have no idea, actually, what would it take. We've been talking about it. But even if we were to agree that it is impossible, it doesn't stop individuals from creating chaos. And with chaos, then at the time when we are supposed to be preparing for election, you can achieve that by ensuring that whoever is in charge is unable to properly campaign and to convince South Africans that he or the organization itself is really ready to lead the country going forward. That is what we are fearful of, is that this is just about sabotaging President Ramaphosa to say, let's create the kind of chaos that will make the ANC unable to campaign. And in that chaos, you've just actually removed him, because you have an electorate that is going to be unsure as to whether really it is the right thing to vote for the ANC amid the chaos. And then you have managed to actually sideline him and kick him out of power.
Well, unity has become a familiar refrain, isn't it, over the past couple of years within the ANC and within the alliance as a whole. What does these allegations say about unity within the party?
Well, we've been saying this as COSATU, that we need principled unity. We don't need unity for its own sake. So, and we think that this ANC has a huge responsibility. Look, what they need to realize is that the ANC doesn't have a supernatural right to be in power. If the ANC fails the people of South Africa, the people of South Africa will impeach the ANC and will kick it out of power. So, when we talk about unity, firstly, we don't want platitudes. We don't want people professing unity while they are having secret meetings that no one is aware of. So that is why we are saying to this NEC, this is your responsibility. If you fail to provide leadership this time around, you will live to regret this, because we want to repeat this. When we go back to what happened in 2016, as COSATU, as workers, we are worried, because right now, the ANC is only in charge of, 3 metros. I think it's Durban, it's Bloemfontein, and Ekurhuleni. It has lost 3 metros because it is not in charge of Tshwane, it is not in charge of Joburg, it is not in charge of Cape Town. That is a big deal. And we have learned lessons where political parties have become rural political parties like ZANU-PF, where they are not in charge of Harare and other big cities. So we are looking at this because we are worried for the ANC, and we are calling for the ANC to actually do something about this, because we cannot afford to fail this time around. We do not have the luxury of time.
Well, apart from public calls, are you having discussions with the president of the ANC, for instance, and raising your concerns?
Look, we were actually tempted to call for a special Alliance Political Council meeting to discuss this issue, but because of the upcoming Congress, in terms of the schedule, the availability of leaders, we felt that, look, we will find a way to communicate our message to the top 6 of the ANC, but we would have preferred that we actually call a special political council meeting. Unfortunately, we are at an advanced stage of our preparation for our own Congress, so there's a lot of work that we are doing, but we are going to send that message to the top 6 to make sure that they understand where we stand. As we go to that Congress, we would have preferred to go there and discuss policy, discuss the implementation of policy, but now we have these kinds of headlines and we cannot ignore them.
So this will be part of the discussions at your National Congress?
We actually hope that we can focus on content, because we only have a Congress once in 3 years. So this is just defocusing us, which is why we're saying to the ANC, do your work, the ANC NEC, to say, this is your responsibility, do your work, so that we're not all defocused. There's a lot that we need to discuss. The way the economy is being mismanaged, the way unemployment is very stubborn in this country. These crime stats were depressing for us. So we want to focus on those issues, really, not on some conspiracies and allegations.
Who from the ANC will be addressing your National Congress?
Well, the President Ramaphosa will be addressing, we have received confirmation that he will be the one who will be attending our Congress on the first day.
Would Makashule be addressing the Congress as well?
No, he will be attending the Congress, the SG, because we have, I think 20 leaders of the ANC, the delegation from the ANC. Alliance partners participate in the discussions. That's all we know. He will not necessarily be addressing the Congress, but we hope that he will actually be participating in the discussions, yes.
What sort of reception do you think Mr. Makashule is going to get at that Congress?
Well, he's not guilty. There is no evidence that he's guilty. So there is no reason for him to receive any kind of hostile reception, because, like we say, the reason why we're calling for an investigation is because we are not accusing anyone of anything. We are saying that because we do not have the facts, and we would like to have the facts, so let the ANC NEC do its work, investigate, so that when we continue to have these discussions, we have the facts that we can refer to.
Apart from these allegations, what are some of the other vital issues that will be discussed at the Congress?
Look, if you look at the state of the working class, for an example, we have lost up to 480,000 jobs over the last 5 years. We will be discussing ways of actually stopping big business from replacing workers with machines, the mechanization and the fourth industrial revolution. And if you look at the number of accidents, not just in the mining sector, recently we have seen a burning building, a government building for that matter. So we'll be discussing ways of amending the legislation to not just hold accountable the employers who do not adhere to the laws, but to penalize them and make sure that they are held accountable. But also, if you look at economic transformation, we are very much worried. We totally support the issue of land reform, and we will be discussing that. But we don't believe that you can actually give people land when you don't have a state financial institution to make sure that they have accessible cheap finance. So we will be also focusing on the issue of the transformation of the financial sector, because we can tell you now we are very happy with what Premier David Makora has said, that he is thinking of opening a regional bank or a provincial bank. We want more of those, because the only way to really break down the hegemony and the monopoly of the banks is to make sure that you have co-ops, you have regional banks, you have a state financial institution, and actually non-profit making banks, as we have seen. In fact, we've been doing a study of how a country like Germany has managed to recover after the Second World War, and including the First World War. And we have realized that when it comes to their financial sector, they have more banks than any other country, and that allows banks to compete and be able to help the government with its own developmental agenda, because there's competition.
While we're on that thought process, what do you think about China's involvement here in Africa, as well as directly here in South Africa, and its money being used here in South Africa as a part of loans?
Look, the issue of China is something that we're also going to debate, because for us, we've been arguing for a long time that foreign direct investment is not the panacea to all of our problems. In fact, sometimes it is the source to some of our problems, because what it does, it encourages external dependence. And what you do when you are focusing on really attracting foreign direct investment is that you postpone the process of transformation, because the investors come in and they make these kinds of demands, and you focus on satisfying these demands, and you postpone the process of transformation. But look, we are a developing economy. We do need countries like China to come in. We just need to make sure that when they do come, we do not lose our sovereignty, and that we are treated as equal partners instead of just minor players that can be bullied. Yes.
Sizwe, thank you very much for your time. Always a pleasure having you on set. Sizwe Pamla is from COSATU. Thank you very much indeed. In other news, a third child has died.